On today's video, I'm going to show you guys how you can install custom prefabs or prefabs that you've built on your own onto your own map. Hey everyone, welcome back to Rust Admin Academy, where I teach you guys the very best tips and tricks to owning and operating a successful Rust server. On this channel, I do a lot of plugin reviews and tutorials to teach you guys all of the ins and the outs of the different things that you can do on your server to make you stand out from the crowd. So if you're brand new to the channel, consider subscribing so that you stay up to date on everything that we're working. Before I get into today's video, I need to let you guys know that I do have roofers literally on top of my house right now. So if you hear that stuff going on in the background, I apologize, but the show must go on. All right, so a lot of people have been wondering how they can actually take a prefab that they've either created themselves or they've purchased from a developer somewhere, whether that be Lone Designs or whatever. There's a lot of different developers out there. Yeah, sorry, I know you guys can hear that. That sucks. Sorry about that. So on today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to do, all of the different steps that you need to take in order to make this happen. All right, let's get right into it. So the first thing you need to make sure that you have is Rust Edit. If you're not familiar with Rust Edit, I'll put a link to it in the video description down below. You can grab it. It's free, but you are going to need Rust Edit in order to make this happen. And then of course, obviously you need to own Rust and all this other stuff, but Rust Edit is the most important. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can take a prefab and install it onto a regular ProcGen map, but this same principle applies if you're working just with a custom built map right from the ground up. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to be installing a monument, a custom monument in this bay right here on this regular ProcGen map. This is not a custom build. This is just a regular random seed that I picked for my test server. So by the time we're all done, you're going to have some sort of a monument here that isn't here right now. So the first thing that we need to do is we actually need to get that map file from wherever it resides on our server. And yes, your Rust client will automatically download any map and store it somewhere locally on your computer every time you log into a server. So it makes it super easy for us to grab that file and then import that into Rust Edit. So the first thing that we need to do is find the location of that map. So for most people, if you're just using a default Rust installation, you're going to go into C drive, you're going to go into program files x86 and then scroll down to Steam and then go into Steam apps, common, Rust, and in this folder is all of your client side Rust files. So we can go into maps and there we go. In this folder, you're going to see every different server that you've ever logged into since the last time you cleaned this folder out. So for this example, we're going to be using this file right here. This is the last procedurally generated map that I logged into with my Rust client. So we just need to remember where that is because we're going to direct Rust Edit to this location to grab this file. So here I am in Rust Edit. Let's direct Rust Edit to where we just found that map file. So again, we're going to start at C drive, program files x86, scroll down to Steam, go into Steam apps, common, Rust, and then maps right here. And we want this file right here, the last procedurally generated map that I was logged into with my client, and we can just open that up and we'll wait for Rust Edit to load up that map. Okay, so here we are inside the map. This is Rust Edit right here. This is not Rust, and we want to find that bay. So let's just pull up the map here real quick, and it's just off to my right. And here we go. So here is that bay that I was just showing you from inside my client. All right, so how do we get the prefab that we bought from whichever developer that we bought it from? How do we get that into Rust Edit? So we're going to do a similar navigation. We're going to go into program files x86, but instead of going into Steam right here, we're going to go into our Rust Edit folder, and then we go into custom prefabs. So this is the location where you're going to store all of your prefabs. So typically speaking, when you get a prefab from a developer, it's going to come to you in a zipped format. You need to unzip that file, and then you need to put your prefabs inside this folder right here that you're looking at right now. Now, obviously, all of these prefabs that you're seeing on my screen right now, these were done previously. I've used these on other tutorials, so they were already there. So if you're installing a brand new prefab into Rust Edit, you want to make sure that Rust Edit is not actually running on your computer while you're installing these files into this folder. And then once you reboot Rust Edit, these prefabs are going to be available to you. Once you have your prefabs installed into your custom folder, you can go into the prefabs top right hand corner prefab list. And now if you didn't have it before, you will have now this custom section right there. I think that's there by default, but it'll probably be empty for you if you haven't installed anything into that folder. So as you can see, you just click on the drop down menu and we can select any of these custom prefabs that we want to install. So just for this example, let's use Dana's lobby and we can move that around. We can adjust it up and down. This is not a Rust Edit tutorial. I'm showing you how you can actually install just prefabs. I'm not teaching you how to use Rust Edit. I'm not familiar enough with it. I'm not nearly as skilled as these guys that are making actual maps. Take this with a grain of salt. So of course you can go up and down. You can move side to side. You can move forward, back. You can lower it into the map. You can raise it up out of the map. You can do pretty much whatever you want with this monument in this format. You can also rotate it. You can resize it. There's a ton of different things that you can do with this prefab inside of Rust Edit. All right, so that looks okay for me right now. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes. I would never really do this. Let's also add, let's do this one right here. This is part of the Arena plugin that I did a video on a couple of weeks ago. I'm just reusing some of these prefabs that Dana sent me. All right, so here's our bay full of all of these different custom prefabs. So now what do we do? So we need to save this file somewhere on our desktop so that we know where to get to it later, because we need to upload this to a publicly available domain. If you've watched my previous video on how to use custom maps, you'll remember on that video I suggested that you use Dropbox. It's free, it's easy, it works. So I'm actually just going to save this directly to my Dropbox. Let's go into test maps there. As you can see, I've done this a time or two. Let's rename this file into something that we're going to remember today. So I'm calling this map file YouTube Prefab Video. That is saving directly into my Dropbox. Now I need to grab that link from my Dropbox and add it into my server startup file in order to download that file directly from my Dropbox. So for right now, we're done with Rust Edit. So now I've logged into my Dropbox folder using the web-based interface instead of the actual folder location. And as you can see there, we've got YouTube Prefab Video.map down at the bottom there. We want to click on these three dots on the right hand side, and then we want to click on copy link. So this is now the link that we're going to use once we transfer this information over into our startup file in order to trigger our server to download this map. So I'm going to be doing this on an iced host test server that I have. If you're doing this on a locally hosted server or a dedicated server or whatever, make sure you check my video on how to install custom maps, because I go over all of those details when you're directly dealing with the batch file. However, Icehost has made this super simple for us. All we got to do is scroll all the way down into our startup parameters, and we just paste in the custom map level link that we just grabbed from my Dropbox. And we always have to remember to change the DL equals 0 to DL equals 1, which basically gives it the permission to download this file. And as soon as we make the change, Icehost automatically saves that for us. Now we just need to go back to our console and click on restart. So it's going to shut down my test server. It's going to restart the server. It's going to grab that map file and download it. So the next time I log into this server, it's going to log me into that custom map that we've just created. So we'll just give this a couple minutes while my server boots back up. All right, so now that we have a successful server boot, we can log in through our client and see what we've done. I'll just log into my test server here and wait for this to load up. I'm not actually going to edit this part out because I want you to see something happening with my seal right here where it says downloading world. This is my client downloading the server map that we've just uploaded to Dropbox. If you don't see this happening, you haven't been successful in installing a custom map. Or if at this point you're getting a world type mismatch, I believe is the error that you get, which can happen if you're using a bunch of different custom maps with the same name, which can happen if you're just like editing, if you're making small changes to your map and then re-uploading it and then trying to log into it again, you might get a world type mismatch, which basically means your client is looking for a certain map file, but it's seeing something different. So what I suggest you do, you can do one of two things. You can either go into your client folder where I just showed you where you can get these maps from and delete the latest file that's in there, or you can just change the name of the file that you've uploaded to your Dropbox or wherever you're hosting it. Just change it by something small, which will then force your client to re-download the new file. All right, so here we are on our new custom map, and let's get rid of that and let's go find this bay, and it's up here at 06. Here we are rolling up to the bay, and there we go. You can see these prefabs that I've now installed using Rust Edit are now on my live server. So this is the lobby that we used from Dana's plugin, and these rock formations right here are also arenas that I just, well, as you know, I just grabbed random prefabs and threw them in there. But at the beginning of this video, you saw that this bay was completely empty. So there you go. That's how you install prefabs. It's a super simple process. It just, there's a couple of different steps you have to take in order to make this happen. So what does this mean for wipe days? If you're going over a wipe day and you want to reutilize these prefabs that you've now installed on your map, you would have to use the same map, or you would go through this exact same process again with whichever ProcGen map that you want to be using, and then reinstall these prefabs onto that map, which can be a little bit cumbersome and time consuming, and probably is the reason why most people don't do it. Typically what happens is people will find a map that they like, that they want to stick with for, you know, 3 wipes or 6 wipes or whatever, and then they'll go in and and they'll add these prefabs to it, and then they don't have to worry about it for the next however long they decide to run that map for. But if you want to, there's nothing stopping you from using a new ProcGen map every time and going in and reinstalling whichever monuments or prefabs you want to be using on that map for that wipe cycle. It's totally up to you. It's another one of the great things about Rust. We get to create these wonderful worlds, and they get to be exactly how we want them to be. And the only rules that we have to follow are the ones that we set out for ourselves. We are the ones that get to determine what our world looks like. It's incredibly cool. And that's one of the things that I love about Rust so much. The freedom to create whatever kind of world that you want, whenever you want to create it. All right, that's how to install prefabs. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you know what to do. And again, remember, if you guys take any value out of this, do me a favor and help support the channel by subscribing. It's free, it's easy. All you gotta do is click that red button down below. My subscription rate has dropped again below 30%, which blows my mind. So if you want to help me to increase that number to higher than 30% again, make sure you remember to subscribe. Sometimes YouTube goes through and actually removes subscriptions because they think you're a bot or whatever. Sometimes you have to check that you are still subscribed. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys again next Friday. Remember, I put out a brand new video every Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So until next Friday, I hope you guys are staying safe and taking care of each other. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then.